Good morning, you happy, lovely people. Good morning, Cass. Thank you for tuning in. Good morning, Daz. Happy Drukhari Day indeed. I hope everybody is very well now. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to fully go over these books and in particular record a battle report yet. They unfortunately arrived very late. Plus, we've got this going on currently in the house. Not that. That is what is going on in the house at the moment. So yeah, if you hear noises, that's what it is. But yes, happy Drukhari Day indeed. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes, let a couple of more people join us. Thank you to those that are watching us on YouTube. It's been a while since we've done a live video on YouTube. Thank you to those guys, of course, joining us over on Twitch as well. For some reason, though, my chat box isn't working. So let me just see if I can change that. Hopefully that's working now. So, I have had a read of this, and it's very much reminiscent of the Death Guard Codex. A lot of stuff has changed. There's some things that aren't as nice, and you think, oh god, why have they took that away? But we've gained other things as well at the same time. So for the minute, we're going to put this away. We're going to have a look through Codex Drukhari first of all. Jotun Wolf, thank you very much for tuning in. Cass, what's your thoughts on the Combat Patrol box? I can't remember what's in it. I think it was 5 Incubi, 10 Cabalites, an Archon, 2 Raiders. It's a decent start. But I've got like 10, 12 Raiders and like 40 Cabalites and like 4 Archons, maybe 5. So for myself, it's not for myself, but if people are wanting to expand into it, the big one for me is, are Helions good now? Yes. Yes, they are, Daz. Yes, they are. Daz, also, I noticed a little post that you put up on the 17th of March, which was my birthday as well. Congratulations to yourself. I won't obviously say where it is. I know it was quite a big achievement for you, but seriously, congratulations, dude. And thank you very much for tuning in. So, there's a number of things changed in this book, like I mentioned. We'll cover the units afterwards. Incubi, Cabalites, Raider, and a Ravager. Ah, Ravager as well. Right, then yes, it's a decent box. So as far as detachments go, okay, you can actually have now a raiding force. Now, to take a raiding force means that if you're familiar with the Drukhari Codex before, you had to run it as essentially 3 separate detachments. You had to, otherwise you broke allegiances. Now, you can run it as a raiding force. Let's just zoom in a little bit there. So a raiding force, all Cabal units get their obsession, all Witch Cult units do, and all Homunculus Coven units do as well. And what you can do for a real space raid is you must take an Archon, and he has to be your Warlord, a Succubus and a Homunculus, and then you've got to take at least 1 unit of Cabalites, 1 unit of Witches, and 1 unit of Racks. That's no different to what you were taking for 3 patrols anyway, right? So you can do it this way without breaking all of your allegiances, right? But you can also take patrols without them costing anything, which is great. You can also select Witch Cult and Homunculus Coven's relics and Warlord traits and stuff as well, even though your Warlord is not specifically from that detachment. They all gain the Real Space Raider keyword, and you can replace your Warlord's Overlord ability. Can replace is the keyword. While Real Space Raider core units are within 6. So that is very, very handy, right? Because the Archon allows reroll hits of a 1 for friendly Cabal and Incubi units. He can give reroll hit rolls of a 1 now for other things, such as your Talos, such as your Witches. It is a little bit of a trade-off in the sense that you're having to pay the tax for all 3 factions essentially, but what you get is so good. Now, you're probably saying, well, what difference does it make given reroll witches want to hit when witches get reroll want to hit from the succubus? They don't anymore. They get reroll 1s to wound, which, let's face it, that's what they need, not the reroll hits. So that's the benefit of running a real space raid, and I think it's absolutely worth it. You can, much like the Space Marine book, upgrade each of the 3 main characters as well. So you do obviously pay the additional points for it. So the Splintered Genius, Show Stealer, and Alchemical Maestro basically give you access to these rules. Cabalite, Witch, and Coven, of course. The Cabalite one's pretty cool. For an extra 15 points, you get an additional rule, at least. And that additional rule is Splintered Genius. Once per battle, at the end of the fight phase, if this model is within engagement range of an enemy unit, it can fight again. Archons are good fighters. They're not particularly strong, but they can chew through stuff, because they've 9 times out of 10 got a power sword or husk blade. They can do work, and just being able to fight again is really cool. There's a lot of relics and warlord traits and stuff in this book, so I won't cover them all, but I will cover these ones because these ones are the ones that you're paying for. Good morning, Dalinair. How on earth are you doing? Hope you are well. So the relic that we've got access to, if you take a Splintered Genius Archon, the bearer has the following abilities. Each time an attack is made that targets the bearer, subtract 1 from the hit roll. In addition, each time the bearer would lose a wound, roll 1d6, and on a 5+, that wound is not lost. That is very beneficial because inert to suffering is no longer a 6-up shrug. Mark Chaos should have similar allowances for demon unit inclusion. Yes, I agree, Mark. So that is actually quite beneficial. That will keep him alive quite a bit longer. And his Warlord trait, add 1 to the damage characteristic of all melee weapons this Warlord is equipped with. It's alright. It's not, but you don't have to take that. You can take one of the generic Archon ones, or indeed one of the faction-specific ones. Witch Cult. Each time this model makes a consolidation move, it can move an additional 3 inches. And it does not have to finish this move closer to the enemy unit. So you can consolidate 6, and you don't have to go closer to the nearest enemy unit. Relic Dancer is the blade. Dancer's Edge, +2 strength, -4 damage 2. And each time an attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of a 6 invulnerables cannot be taken. That's pretty decent, considering a new rule that Drukhari have, which we will get to shortly. Painty and Pain sold out everywhere in about 3 minutes. Indomitus all over again. Dalinair dropped Battle Bunker a message. He has this, the dice, he has Painty and Pain and everything, all available to pre-order. Go on his Facebook page, get his phone number, give him a ring, and he'll actually ship it out to you free of charge as well, because I know you're in the UK. So Warlord trait, Whirling Death. Each time this Warlord fights, after any pile of moves until the fight is resolved, you can choose for its attack characteristic to be equal to 3 plus the number of enemy units that are within 2 inches of it. So if you fight in 3 models, Custodes here, you get to make 6 attacks. You'll be a +2 strength, so you should be wounding them on 4s at -4, 2 damage. Any 6s in vulnerable save can't be taken, so you'll be relying on a 6-up save on them. I think that's pretty cool. But my favourite one is the Homunculus Proclivity. Basically, once per battle when the model is destroyed, you can choose to roll 1d6 at the end of that phase when the model is destroyed. If you do so, then on a 2+, set the model back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where they were destroyed, but not within an engagement range of an enemy, and with D3 wounds remaining. That's pretty tasty. That's pretty tasty. I wasn't too fussed on the relic here, but the Warlord trait, in your command phase, you can select one friendly Coven rack unit within 3. D3 destroyed models can be added to the unit. It's alright. It's alright. So, a couple of extra rules that they've now getting. Blood Brides, Cabalite Trueborns are back. Cabalite Trueborns, Hecatrix Blood Brides, and Hemoxites, which is essentially veteran racks, are all plus 2 points a model, and they get additional rules as well. You can only include these if you've paid the cost for a Master Archon, Master Succubus, or Master Homunculus. Do you think it will be viable to do pure one of the groups, like pure Witch Coven, with the new Codex, or is mix still essential for anything? A mix is better, Mark, because if you take the Real Space detachment, the Archon gives reroll 1s to all core units. So that actually is a benefit to taking multiple ones in the same detachment without breaking the rest of your allegiances, which I think is really good. There's a lot of changes in this book, and I think it will take a few games to adjust and see what they can do. So as Cabalite Trueborn, you have a ballistic skill of a 2+. You get +1 leadership, and each time this model, a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, you can ignore any and all hit modifiers. Wow, for 2 points a model. That's really good. Now, you can only include one unit of them, and they can only be up to a maximum of 10. But still, that's good. Splinter racks are in a Raider, and there's a strat. Well, they've changed slightly, but that combined with a unit in a Raider is really, really good. On the subject of a Raider, right? Transport capacity 11. Finally, so you don't have to take a unit of 9 witches just to stick your succubus in there. You can take a full unit of 10 and stick your succubus in, or your 10 Cabalites and Archon, or your 10 racks or 5 grotesques and your homunculus as well. Because the delays, no one is. Wow, that's amazing, Dave. I didn't realise it was that bad. So yeah, I think Cabalite Trueborn, very, very good. Hecatrix Blood Brides, they have a weapon skill of 2+. They get +1 leadership, and each time an attack made with a model in this unit would trigger the Blade Artist's ability. The armor penetration characteristic of that attack is increased by 3. Basically, if you roll any 6s to wound, and this is the Blade Artist ability, any 6s to wound become minus AP 1, and most Drukhari have that, okay? But getting -3 on a 6 to wound, when you're pumping out as many attacks as what witches are, is very, very good. And for an extra 2 points a model as well. The racks, meanwhile, improve the unit's save characteristic and invulnerable save by 1 to a maximum of 4+. They only start with a 6-up save now, so that only goes up to a 5-up. Add 1 to the leadership. It's okay. And once per phase, the first time a saving throw is failed for this unit, the damage characteristic is reduced to 0. It's okay. I don't think that's great though. Transport capacity, same as Gorkamorka, however many witches you can stand and hang and dandle on the Raider. That would be really cool. That would be really cool. So, yeah. We'll quickly skip all of the faction abilities though, which there's a lot of. Where's the rules? Come on. There's so much information in this book, guys. Where are we at? Crusade, Crusade, Crusade. Here we go. So the power from pain table changed, right? So instead of having a 6-up shrug against damage, all models simply have a 6-up invulnerable save now. Technically, I think that's a bit better, right? Because it means that you're not relying on rolling 2 6s on to shrug damage on a 1-wound model. You now only need to roll 1 6 to shrug a las cannon. I think that's better. I do think that's better. Nuki Brown Morning. Turn 2, Eager to Flare. This unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they advanced. That's good because Cult of the Red Grief has changed, but getting this is good. Incubi can run and charge. It's rubbish for things that already had a 5+ though. It is, Dalanet, it is. Some things that already had a 5+ still have something else though, so we'll get there eventually. Flensing Fury for turn 3. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. If this unit was a vehicle or monster, it does not suffer the penalty incurred to its hit roll for fire and heavy weapons at enemy units within engagement range. So it's alright, +1 to hit's still decent. Turn 4, you then get a 5 up invulnerable save, but let's face it, you're not going to have many models left by that point. And turn 5, each time a morale test is taken for this unit, it automatically passes. If this unit's characteristic can change as it suffers damage, this unit is considered to have double the number of wounds remaining. It's okay. It's okay. Depends how much this ignoring vulnerable starts to spread. Seems to be very much the new thing. Yes, I agree, Mark. But at the same time, invulnerable saves tend not to be better than a 4+ now. Tend not to be better than a 4+. So I think they are definitely starting to move away from invulnerable saves, or not as brutal as what it used to be. So Blade Artists, most Drukhari, like I said, have this. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack with a melee weapon or an unmodified wound roll of a 6, improve the armor penetration by 1. So that's very, very handy for things, for example, if you're carrying a power sword, that suddenly then becomes -4 AP, which is pretty good. Insensible to pain up here. Each time a model with this, a model in this unit would lose a wound, roll 1d6, and on a 5+, it is not lost. So some things still have a 5+ shrug now instead of the old 6+. So yes, the invulnerable went down, but the feel no pain on some units that had a better invulnerable save has gone up. Combat drugs is very different now. So Adrenalite, which was the +1 attack, now only works if you made a charge move or performed a heroic intervention. Doesn't work if you get charged all second round of combat, so that's a bit of a shame. You've got +1 strength, +2 movement, +1 toughness, +1 weapon skill, and +1 ballistic skill and leadership. However, you can roll randomly for 2 abilities, or you can choose one, and it doesn't say that you can't double dip anymore. So you can give 2 units +1 attack if you want, which is decent. At the same time though, the possibility of 2, but then it's like, well, what if you get stuck with +2 movement, +1 ballistic skill when you don't really want that, you want toughness or strength, so it's a bit of a trade-off. So looking at all of the factions, I'm not, like, there is a lot of stuff here to go through, like, so much stuff. You've got 4 Cabals plus all the custom ones. You've got 3 Witch Cult plus the custom ones. And you've got 3 Covens plus the custom ones. A lot of them have changed. Writ of the Living Muse, of course, got rewrit for Cabal of the Black Heart so that it only affects core units. Unfortunately, the Ravager is not core. Everyone saw it coming, but there we go. Labyrinthine Cunning is the same, you can farm command points, but the Obsession, units with this Obsession treat the current battle round as being 1 higher than it actually is when determining what effects they gain. If a real space raid detachment includes a Cabal of the Blackheart Archon, then until the end of the battle, all Blades for Hire units in the detachment that have the Power from Pain ability also treat the current battle round as being 1 higher. That's turn 1 running and charging Incubis, everyone. Which is really good. You get +1 leadership, and each time a unit with this obsession is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 hit roll. It's pretty cool. It's alright. Rip Vect, guess saw that coming. It's 0 CP. Use this stratagem after your opponent uses a stratagem. Until the end of the battle, the CP cost for your opponent must pay to use that stratagem game is increased by 1. It's still decent. It's decent. It's just very different to what it was. But let's face it, being able to just go, no, was very, very powerful. Very powerful. Use that on a command reroll, right? And every time your opponent uses a command reroll for the rest of the battle, it's 2 CP. It's still decent. It doesn't cost you to use it. It's free. So, I like the change. Says on it. Can't you... Oh. Yeah, but that's a shame. Anyway, Cabal of the Poison Tongue. You can increase the poison weapons to a poison 3+. And if enemy unit has models destroyed by an attack made with a poisoned weapon by a model with this obsession, until the end of the turn, subtract 1 from the combat attrition tests. It's alright. Cabal of the Flayed Skull. Each time a model with this obsession that can fly, or that is embarked on a transport can fly, the target doesn't receive the benefit of cover, and +2 to the movement of vehicle units with this obsession. It's okay. Lots of the custom Cabal units are still there. Toxin Crafters is probably one of the better ones still, but that is all consuming, so you can't choose two. You have to choose that one. From what I can see, a lot of these are very similar to the Blood of the Phoenix. Cult of Strife. At the start of the fight phase, if a unit with this obsession is within engagement range, it can fight first. It's okay. And each time you declare a charge for a unit with this obsession, if there are no other units from your army within engagement range of an enemy unit, then you can add one to your charge rolls. I'm not overly fussed by it. Cult of the Cursed Blade, +1 strength. Very good. The loss of +1 attack is a shame, but fight first is nice. It is. But let's face it, if you're fighting in a subsequent round, you're doing something wrong with witches. But there we go. So +1 strength is pretty nice, and each time you make an unmodified saving throw of a 6 for a model with this obsession against a melee attack, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound. You've got a 6-up invulnerable save, guys. Like, that's good. That's really good. How can you see that Cult of Strife picture and not think they should be allowed to fight alongside Banshees? I agree. Wait, there's one rule, actually. I've just remembered about it, guys. Where is it? 2 minutes. Right. Where's it at? Here. Weakling Kin. You cannot include Drukhari and non-Drukhari Eldari units in the same detachment unless they have the Ynnari keyword. Now, is it just me, or does that mean when Ynnari get updated, you can mix detachments? You can put a Cabalite, a troop, and a Guardian squad in a Ynnari detachment. That's how that reads to me, and I just remembered about it then, with Mark saying that. That's one of the best now with strength, Sigmar style, reflect, damage is cool. Yes. Yeah, Mark agrees with that. So I'm quite excited about what to do with Ynnari, because this is one of the reasons I have never... Sorry, I played them once in 8th when they first came out, right? Because it's just so convoluted with the way that you've got to build them. I didn't like it at all. But Cult of the Cursed Blade, I think, is the best one to go with now. +1 strength on your witches. Witches swinging at strength 4. And now the fact that Succubus gives you reroll 1s to wound, I think is very viable. Combine that with Blood Brides and the fact that witches have a built-in extra attack. Very, very good. And we will get to Helions. Cult of the Red Grief changed. Obviously, you could run and charge before. You can reroll charges for units made with this obsession and add 2 to advance rolls. Now, it helps on turn 2, but this is to get rid of that turn 1 charge. Most armies have lost the ability to do turn 1 charges now. But what they've done is they've basically swapped that over with the power from Pain Table, which I'm not complaining at. I think it works better that way. Because let's face it, you didn't see anything but Cult of Red Grief. I've lost sound. Sound in what sense, Dallinair? It's just you, fair enough. Of course, you've then got all the custom traits as well. Again, most of these, I read them, and some of them are okay. But I think I would just rather go with the Cursed Blade. Homunculus Covens, Prophets of Flesh. Rip. Rip indeed. So at the start of your command phase, each character, grotesque, and monster regains 1 wound. That's still good. It's good. Each time an attack is made against a unit with this obsession, unless the attack has a strength characteristic of 8 or more, then on a wound roll of a 1 to 3 it fails. Now, is it me or is that worse than what Dark Angels have? Because Dark Angels just can't be wounded on a 1 to 3. I don't know if that's the same for strength 8 or above. Rob Dunn looks amazing. So there's a lot of changes and a lot of people will cry about it, but it's happened with all of the codexes this edition. They've took things away that people got accustomed to and changed them. In my opinion, they've changed for the good of the game, and it definitely feels like it's more fluffy. Not sure how I feel about Prophets. It's a huge... It is, in the sense that you've lost your invulnerable. But regaining 1 wound a turn still isn't a bad shout. In particular, when we get to the Homunculus rules, they're not as hard to shift as what they were. They are easier, unless you're dead. Yeah, well, that's why you take them in units of 3, Dallinair. But we'll get to that. Distillers of Fear, -1 to 6 in, -1 within 6 leadership aura, and -1 attrition. It's okay. Each time you make a melee attack for a unit with this obsession that targets a unit with a leadership characteristic that is equal to or lower than the attacking units, add 1 to the hit roll. It's a bit naff. It's a bit naff. Coven of 12. Each time a model with this obsession makes an attack with a melee weapon, improve the AP by 1. It's okay. And if a unit with this obsession is performing an action, it can still make attacks with the ranged weapons without the action failing. That's limited to racks because I don't think monsters can perform actions. And they have 2 shooting weapons if you take 1 on the Akathist. It's not great. Absolutely, you're going to go Dark Technomancers now. There's no reason not to. I think Prophets of Flesh is decent if you're running Urian. But I think most people are probably going to run Dark Technomancers, which is an all-consuming one. You can't combine that with any others. So again, a lot of these are from Blood of the Phoenix. Stratagems. There's some nice ones. You've still got Eviscerate and Flyby. But if you've got 5 or more models, it now costs 2 CP. Sorry, 5 or fewer, it's 1. 6 or more. Is Dark Technomancers the same as before? Each time a unit with this obsession is selected to shoot, you can choose to enhance any or all of the ranged weapons models in that unit are equipped with. If you do so until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made with an enhanced weapon, add 1 to the attack's wound roll and add 1 to the damage roll. Damage characteristic of the weapon, but that attack's hit roll cannot be re-rolled. So that is new. If any unmodified hit rolls of a 1 are made for attacks with an enhanced weapon, the bearer's unit suffers 1 mortal wound after shooting. However, if it's a vehicle or a monster, it suffers D3. That's not good. It is slightly nerfed, but mostly the same, yes. But I think out of what you've got, it's the better one. Webway Portal is there. You've got Alliance of Agony still. You've got the one against Lanesh. The Torturer's Craft. They've just tweaked the CP, so if it's certain... so for example, if it's a character or rack, it's 1 CP, otherwise it's 2 CP to make the Grotesques or Talos fight again. Prey on the Weak was actually quite cool for 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase or fight phase when a Drukhari core unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, if the attack targets a unit that was below its starting strength when this unit was selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll hit rolls of a 1. If the attack targets a unit that was below half strength when this unit was selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll the hit roll entirely. That's decent. 1 CP just to reroll hit rolls. Or reroll hit rolls of a 1. It's pretty cool. You've got Screaming Jets still. Deadly Rivals is one that works with Helions and Reavers. If they're within 12 inches of each other, you can add 1 to their movement. And each time a model in this unit makes an attack with a melee weapon, you can reroll the hit roll. It's situational. You need both units. It's pretty decent. You've got Haywire Grenade still. Swift Outflanking, I liked. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 1 Drukhari transport unit from your army that is wholly within 9 of any battlefield edge. Remove that unit from the battlefield and place it in strategic reserve. Murderous Descent as well. Use this stratagem in the reinforcement step after a transport unit from your army is set up on the battlefield. Any units embarked upon that transport can disembark and be set up, but when they do so, they must be set up more than 9 inches away from enemy units. Drop Pod! It costs 1 CP and a Raider or Ravager, but you've got a Drop Pod. So that was pretty cool. Shock Prow was decent now, so you've got a stratagem for that. You can do mortal wounds to vehicles if you've got a Shock Prow. It's decent. As far as like new stratagems go and stuff, there wasn't a whole host of them. I'll quickly cover the Warlord traits, and then we'll have a look at some of the units that I note that did change, and see what you guys think about that. So, Cabal Warlord traits, reroll hit and wound roll. It's decent, but it makes an attack. Now, I know what you're thinking, Blaster on your Archon. Be very careful what your models are modelled with, because now you are very limited because they have updated all of the War Scrolls. Soul Thirst, +1 attack, and once per turn when an enemy model that is within 6 of this Warlord destroyed, he regains 1 wound. That's alright. Ancient Evil, at the start of the fight phase you can select 1 enemy unit within engagement range. That unit is not eligible to fight until all eligible units from your army have done so. So it's almost a fight last. Witch Cult Warlord traits, +2 to the attack characteristic, that's decent. Stim Addict, when determining the effect of combat drugs ability for this Warlord before the battle, roll 2 additional dice, re-rolling results of 6 or results that are already in effect. This Warlord's combat drugs ability has these benefits in addition to any others. You can roll 4 dice for the combat drugs, but you don't get the +1 ballistic skill and leadership, I think it was, for a 6. That's fine. That's fine. So basically there's 1 of the 5 that you're not getting. Precision blows, any unmodified hit rolls of a 6. The target unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic of the weapon. That's pretty decent as well. Homunculus ones, each time this Warlord uses their Fleshcraft ability, the target model regains up to 3 lost wounds instead of D3. So that is a new rule which we'll get to. Master Nemesine, each time this Warlord makes an attack, add 1 to the attack's wound roll. Master Artisan, add 1 to the toughness and wounds characteristic of the Warlord. It's okay. Actually, one thing I do want to go back and cover, the Warlord trait that Urian used to take for Prophets of Flesh, changed, because it used to give you D3 extra command points at the start of the battle and re-roll a single dice. Now, when this model is set up on the battlefield, choose one of the below. Until the end of the battle, add 1 to his toughness and wound, or until the end of the battle, add 1 to his movement and attack. You're not going to take it. You're not going to take it. So, yeah. Relics, nothing massively stands out. You've still got the Helm of Spite. You've got the Jin Blade. The Trip Attack Whip. Nothing massively changed there. So, we'll skip forward now. So, Archon still has the Shadow Field, thankfully. It can never be re-rolled. The first time the invulnerable save is failed until the end of the battle, the ability has no effect. That's fine. He's got Blade Artist and he's got Power from Pain, so he doesn't have that Shrug. Sounds like the Homunculus groups are trying to be Skaven Clan Molder. Good call, to be honest. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I like them more the way they are now. Yes, it's a nerf game-wise, but it feels more Coven related now. So the Archon is armed with a Splinter Pistol and Power Sword. He can take an Agonizer, a Husk Blade or Venom Blade, and he can take a Blast Pistol. That's the only things he can do. Succubus, meanwhile, is armed with an Archite Glaive and an Agonizer. Archite Glaive does not suffer -1 to hit now, which is really good. She gives friendly Witch Cult Core units a reroll wounds of a 1 now instead of reroll hits. She's got a 4 invulnerable save, and she's still got no escape. True Arrow, thank you very much for that follow. No escape each time an enemy unit, excluding Titanic units. So, am I correct in thinking it was only infantry it worked on before? It now works on all models except Titanic. So, that's a little bit of a buff. It's selected fallback. Roll off with your opponent, subtracting 1 from your opponent's roll if this model is equipped with a Shardnet or Impaler. If you win, that unit can't fall back. So you can take Hydra Gauntlets, Razor Flails, or Shardnet and Impaler, and you can take a Blast Pistol or Splinter Pistol. The Homunculus, meanwhile, worth noting as well that she has Blade Artist Combat Drugs as well. The Homunculus has Blade Artist, Insensible to Pain, so he has a 5-up Shrug and Power from Pain. Master of Pain, while a friendly Coven core unit is within 6, add 1 to the toughness. At the end of your movement phase, select a Coven monster or grotesque unit from your army that is within 3 of this model. That model regains D3 lost wounds. So that's decent. So netting on Holding Land Raiders and Storm Ravens. Yes. Vector's in, but it's really different. Yeah, I've already seen, well, we've covered that already. So yeah, I think that it's a decent change to the Homunculus. Being able to heal Coven stuff now is very good. Lilith and Drazar. I know Lilith has been covered on the community page, so I won't cover that. But Drazar did change slightly. So rather than being able to attack twice when he charges, he can simply attack twice. So that was a good change. Of course, he's got Blade Artist and Power from Pain. Blade Artist, Power from Pain. Lilith does not have Combat Drugs, which is odd. Lilith lost her Impaler. Oh, yeah, because the old model, you could do it one way or the other, couldn't you? Oh, well. Urian. Cash grab to make people buy the new model. Yes, and I am not buying the box set just for that model. Does Drazar give bonuses to certain troops? Yes, Dave, he still buffs Incubi. Ancient Warrior, reduced damage by 1. Master of Blades Aura. Whilst a friendly Incubi unit is within 6 of this model, each time a unit in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to their attack's wound roll, which is good. But Urian, Insensible to Pain, Blade Artist, and Power from Pain still. At the start of your fight phase, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within engagement range. On a 6 to suffer 1 mortal wound. It's okay. He's got Sustained by Dark Science, so he can get back up on a 2+ built in, which is decent. Fleshcraft, he can heal D3 wounds on a monster or grotesque unit. He's got a 4 invulnerable save still. He halves damage still. He still adds 1 toughness, but he also adds 1 strength. So I still think he's a much better homunculus than what the other ones were. However, the normal homunculus, right? He's equipped with a stinger pistol, homunculus tools, ichor injector, and scissor hands. He cannot do. You can't take the electro-corrosive whip. You can't take the hex rifle. It's a bit annoying. Jay, thank you very much for that host. So far, I think the 9th edition Codex have been good changes for the health of the game. Just the X steams have been toned down for better, good, alright. Yes, I agree, Nuki Brown. The books are much, much better for the good of the game. They're not as broken as what they were. Look at Deadly Dance on Lilith. Each time this model makes a consolidation move, it can move an additional 3. So yeah, she's got the built-in Warlord trait, which is handy. It's cool. It's cool. I mean, it's a sick army. Elf space pirates that need to torture in order to psych boost to stay from being consumed by a Slanesh. New Drukhari versus Inner Circle spam. Who wins? No idea. Because they're wounded on 4s anyway, so they don't care. So yeah, Cabalite's got an extra attack base. You can take up to 20 models, but if you take Trueborn, there can only be 10. So, not a lot really changed with them. We've seen the changes to the Splinter Cannon. Of course, it's heavy 3 now. It has an actual strength value, but -1 and 2 damage is decent. The Blaster is still -4 and D6 damage. And the Dark Lance got slightly better, D3 plus 3 damage. It got slightly better for infantry, which we'll get to shortly. Witches have a 3rd attack built in now, and the Hecatrix Blade gives them an extra attack. It's still 1 model in 10 can take a Hydreigon, Razor Flail, or Shardnet and Impaler. You can't take 3 of 1. You've got to take 1 of each. Did the Disintegrator change? We'll get to that shortly, Dallinair. They've got a dodge, 6-up invulnerable save as standard, plus a 4-up when they're in combat. No escape is the same as the one that we covered. They've got Blade Artist, Combat Drugs, Power from Pain. Rax, got 2 attacks built in. Nothing really changed with them, apart from they've got Insensible to Pain now, so they've got a 5-up Shrug. But they don't have a built-in invulnerable save. You've just got the generic 6-up save from Power from Pain. It's a little frustrating. That is a little frustrating. But they've changed it because of Talos spam. You can't ignore that. Incubi have also already been covered. So the Clave is +2, -3, 2 damage. So it's strength 5 now, which means you're wounding Primaris Marines on 2s if you've got Drazar nearby. No wonder they went down in points. Yeah, exactly. 4+ save on the Cabalites. Yes, sorry, Daniel, I missed that. But yeah, wound rolls of a 6 add 1 to the damage. And they've also got Tormentor's Rule now as well, so they can force people to fight last. Mandrakes have 3 attacks base now, which is pretty cool. And they can fade away and basically come back as reinforcements. Again, pretty cool. Incubi are amazing, yes, especially if you run them with Cabal of the Black Heart Dallinair, you can turn 1 charge with them. out of a raider with Drazar. Fantastic. The fact that Mandrakes now can just drop off and come back on is really good. It's basically built in upon the Wings of Fire for free. Grotesques got 4 attacks built in. The Flesh Gauntlet, unmodified 6s do mortal wounds, or you can make 1 extra attack with a monstrous cleaver. Situational, it's alright. But remember, you've got Blade Artists built in on almost everything. 6s to wound in combat to do an extra AP. It's handy. It's really handy. I'll be honest, I didn't look at the Beastmaster and everything. I know not a lot of people were taking them. There may be reasons to take them now, but you can only include 6 models now for the Chimera, rather than, I think it was 10 or 12 before. Reavers, 10 points. Seems odd. I don't get it. I think it's a printing error because I know it was wrong in chapter approved. You've still got Cluster Caltrops and Grav Talons. Grav Talons are slightly different now, so on a 4+ it does 1 mortal wound, on a 6 it does D3, which is pretty good. They've got Combat Drugs, Power from Pain, Blade Artists. I'm surprised they didn't have Hit and Run, to be honest, but there we go. Where does it say about the thing? If the unit contains between 4 and 6 models... Oh, there we go. The Arena Champion can take a Power Sword or Agonizer. For every 3 models, a Splinter Rifle can be replaced with a Blaster or Heat Lance. And 1 in 3 can take a Grav Talon or Cluster Caltrop. So the Heat Lance is now D6 plus 2 damage. So that is actually not bad. It's not infantry, so it won't suffer the penalty for heavy. However, you'll notice it's not an assault weapon. Helions. Toughness 4 and 2 wounds. Toughness 4, 2 wounds, 3 attacks base. Still 17 points. Much improved. Much improved. The Helion can take a Phantasm Grenade Launcher, a Power Sword, an Agonizer, or a Stun Claw. They've got Hit and Run, so they can retreat and declare a charge, which is decent. There was another, actually, that reminds us of a stratagem. Don't remember which stratagem it was. Never stationary. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase after making attacks. No, it's not that one. There's one where you can retreat and then shoot, or retreat and charge. Potent Melotoxins was one that I missed actually. For 2 CP, you can get poison against vehicles. Very good. But no, there is one I just can't seem to see where it was. It lets you retreat and shoot, or retreat and charge. Combine it with the Helions, with the fact that they've got all that poison weaponry, pretty decent. Give them a combat drug, right? Considering their Hellglaive is +1 strength, -1 AP, and and 2 damage. Give them +1 strength or give them +1 attack. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Scourge. They've got Blade Artists, which you're probably not going to use, but it is what it is. They have a 5-up invulnerable save built in. And of course you can deploy them at a distance. They've got all sorts of weapons, but the Drukhari Haywire Blaster, heavy D3. So they are infantry, so unfortunately you will suffer that penalty, but it's a blast weapon. Each time you target a vehicle, an unmodified wound roll of 4+ is always successful, and an unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target. So it doesn't do mortal wounds on a 4 anymore, but it has changed. Reaver's 10 points in the White Dwarf points cost book too. Wow. I know the FAQ'd it, Mark, but technically we've had 2 new releases then to change that. So yeah, Haywire Blasters, wounding vehicles on a 4 automatically is nice, but losing the mortal wound is not. It is what it is, and let's face it, Harlequins are going to get that change as well, or very similar. Talos. Yeah, so they've got Blade Artist built in, which is nice. Insensible to pain, so they've got a 5-up shrug. They don't have an invulnerable save. They've got the 6-up from power from pain, and that's it. That is very annoying. Of course, they've got all the same weapons that they had before. The chain flails, you can make 2 attacks instead of 1. Macro scalpels, if you take a pair, you get 1 additional attack. It's +1 strength, -2 damage. So you would get 6 attacks. So I think they've actually got an extra attack base. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see Talos in the way that you did before, and I'm disappointed because I've got 9. Chronoses are okay. There was a stratagem to help with these guys as well, but not so much change. Reservoir of Pain, you can heal stuff as well. Ravagers. If you want disintegrator cannons, it's now 155 points for 3 disintegrator cannons on a Ravager. Disintegrator cannons are heavy 3, strength 5, -3, 2 damage. So they are now a heavy weapon as opposed to an assault weapon. The Dark Lance is also a heavy weapon as opposed to an assault weapon. Now, unless I've missed a rule somewhere, this means that you can't advance these vehicles and still shoot, which is annoying. Very annoying. It does have Night Shield for a 5-up invulnerable, which is nice. But that's pretty much it. Will the Chronos get used? I forgot they even existed beyond an alternate look model part for another Talos. So the Spirit Siphon, each time an attack with this weapon automatically hits the target. No, it was Spirit Probe. The bearer gains the following ability. While friendly Drukhari core units are within 6, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, you can reroll wound rolls of a 1. That is helpful. You can replace models, but then there was a stratagem. Let me try and find it. Pain Siphon. Use this stratagem when a Drukhari unit from your army that is within 6 of a friendly Kronos unit destroys an enemy unit with a melee or ranged attack. Until the end of that battle, the Drukhari unit always treats each battle round as if it is round 5 for the purposes of the pain. So for 1 CP, if you kill an enemy unit whilst you're within 6 of a Kronos, you count as being round 5. So, and it's a Drukhari unit. So, have your Talos kill something with ranged weapons on turn 1 whilst they're within 6 of your Kronos. They've then got the 5-up save at least. They've got +1 to hit in combat. They can run and charge, but obviously they can't fire because the weapons are now heavy. You might see them. So they have. They've got power from pain built in now. Well, they've got a 5-up invulnerable anyway. But can advance and charge, but can't. Yeah. See, because of the advance and charge on the power from pain, that's why these don't have assault weapons now. Which is a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. Raider, Night Shield, 5-up invulnerable save. So the fact that the Raider and the Ravager have a built-in 5-up now is fantastic. It's fantastic. Transport capacity 11, which is fantastic. The Venom has a transport capacity of 6. It has a flicker field, which is -1 to hit it, as well as the 5-up invulnerable save as well. Guessing Twin Haywire Wire Blaster for Talos is the same as the Scourge version, but with more shots. Yes, so it's armed with 2 Haywire Blasters. Drukhari Haywire Blaster, range 24, heavy D3. There, but it's armed with 2 of them rather than it being a twin. There, any number of models can have each of their 2 splinter cannons replaced with one of the following: 2 Drukhari Haywire Blasters, 2 Heat Lancers, or 1 Stinger Pod. So yeah. Razor Wing, pretty much the same. The Dark Lancer is obviously better, but it's now an assault weapon now. The missiles changed. You don't get the reroll wound one now. They've all got blast. However, Necrotoxin is poison 2+. So it's decent. But I don't understand why you would ever take the Monoscythe. Oh, because it's 2 damage. Yeah, I see. It's okay. The Void Ravens, Dark Scythe and Void Lance. So the Void Lance is now D3 plus 3 damage. Decent. The Void Mine is still once per battle. D6 mortal wounds on a 2+. And that's it. And that is pretty much the Codex. I think there's a lot of things in there, guys, that are very good. I think the changes that people are going to miss will benefit the game infinitely. Did you get the Dizzies yet? Yes, I did, Dallin. They are still 3 shots. They are still strength 5, -3, 2 damage. They are just heavy weapons instead of assault weapons now. So, I've been covering this for about an hour now, guys. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in chat now, and I'll answer them. But then we are unfortunately going to have to head off. I will do my best to get a game with the Drukhari film this coming week. Unfortunately, we didn't get this till quite late. And as I said earlier, we've kind of got that going on. So, yeah, apologies. But, yeah, if anybody has any questions, guys, please stick them in chat right now. And I'll take a few minutes of Q&A if anybody has any questions. But I think Helion's definitely got better. Talos and Grotesque got took down a peg. And I think it's alright. I think you still might see them, just not. You're not going to see 9 like what you used to. The campaign to get Vector back starts again. Yes, it does. Yes, unfortunately. But, yeah, we will be covering this soon. I'll be playing Drukhari, of course. Lucy has been learning the Blood Angels over the last few months, of course, just so that it's easier for us to film while we're still not allowed to mix households with other people. But, yeah, we're currently in the middle of a game, or about to start a game. So, again, this is why I couldn't really start filming a battle report last night and finish this morning, because we were in the middle of this one. So that's a Psych Bone Reapers versus Host of the Everchosen. That will become available to Patreons and YouTube members first, before it is released on YouTube. So if anybody would like to support the channel, please become a YouTube member or Patreon. It goes a long, long way to helping us keep up with all the new releases. And this month in particular, it enabled us to start Marvel Crisis Protocol. So I've been furiously painting these guys up over the last couple of weeks. I have one more model left to paint, and then we can start filming some Crisis Protocol battle reports. Is there anything that is obviously brutal, like Morty, Mephiston, Gaz, Be'lakor looking? Well, my Be'lakor's on the table, but he's about that big. No, I don't think there's nothing that's big and brutal at all in this book. It's very much guerrilla warfare, what's in here. It's hit fast, hit hard. The Homunculus stuff is a bit slower, obviously, but like it can still fight. It can still pack a punch. I think Incubi, you're going to see more of them. It's nice to see a rework of non-Astartes army and see how they work and what is there. What is their super doctrine? They have combat drugs. They have power from pain. And they have what was it? Precision something with the blades. 2 seconds, Dave. Daniel. So you've got Power from Pain, which increases every turn and it stacks. You've got Blade Artists, which gives you an extra AP for any 6s you roll to wound in combat. You've got Insensible to Pain, which not all units have, but a 5-up shrug is very good. And then you've got Combat Drugs, which the Witch Cult can take. So the main thing is the Power from Pain. And whilst it didn't improve in some respects, it got better in others. And I think the table itself is a lot better. It's a shame that the Invuln save is built into that, but it is what it is, guys. Right, so if nobody has any other questions, folks, I'll hang around a couple of more minutes. Please drop your questions now. We will be live streaming and painting over on Twitch. Make sure you give us a follow over on Twitch. We might be there tonight. Might. If not, we'll definitely be back tomorrow night. I had quite a lot of internet issues last week and the week before, which is why I wasn't live streaming. But of course, we're now back. So go and give us a follow over on there, guys. You can ask us anything you want on there. Hobby tips or absolutely anything you want to know. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. I'm going to head off now. And like I said earlier, if you are able to support the channel and get early access to battle reports, and I'm doing behind the scenes videos again, I promise, they will be available to members and Patreons only. But until next time, guys, thank you very much. This is available to rewatch Dallinair, so you can go back and watch it again. Also, feel free to message me if anybody has me on Discord or Facebook, and I'll happily try and answer anything throughout the day. Going to be rewatching to catch up. No worries, Jay. Like I said, anything you have any questions on, feel free to drop me a message on Discord or Facebook. And until next time, though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you all again very soon.